We say to girls,
what is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
Welcome to Two Girls in the Market. I'm Rebekah Daniels, and this is my lovely co-host, Amber Haley in Hawaii. And today we are talking about the power of being underestimated. Amber, have you ever felt like you were being underestimated?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. How did it feel?
I love what you just said. You said the power of being underestimated, not the struggle of being underestimated.
It's only a struggle if you make it that.
Yeah, that's really setting the tone, I think, for a good conversation. But yeah, being underestimated, I think for a lot of people, it doesn't feel good. No. It can be frustrating. It can be something that makes you angry and resentful at people, or have it be your power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, I'm going to expose myself a little bit here.
Ooh.
And maybe I'm giving away some of my secret powers. I don't know. This is just between us, right?
Just between us and everybody listening.
Yeah. All 5 people. No.
75 downloads. Yes.
Which, thank you guys so much for the support. We've been loving it.
Yes, love it.
Anyways, back to my secret superpower. I love strategy games, and I've grown up playing them. And so it's really, and a lot of these strategy games come with bluffing. And so I've really learned how to pick up on when someone is being deceptive. And so 99% of the time, I know when someone is not being totally honest with me, but I never let them know that I know. I just kind of let them dig their little hole.
Yeah.
They go down that little route. And then I utilize that knowledge of what I've learned about them as a person and what they've underestimated my intelligence. They've underestimated who I am and what I have the power to figure out and find out and put together. And then I use that against them. And it's worked out really well. I feel a little, is this devious?
It sounds a little maniacal, but also just smart. I mean, people shouldn't be underestimating you, so.
You heard it here first. But Amber, tell me, when you have felt underestimated, has this been like in your real estate career? Has this just been in your everyday life? Where have you felt like you've experienced that the most?
I feel like I experienced it the most definitely in the business world, definitely in real estate. But, in all aspects of life, I think probably a lot of women can relate to this, feeling underestimated just because of, certain gender biases, maybe, or, historical context of what women did in the world and what our roles were. So I think that can contribute to it. But I definitely feel it the most in the business world. I think because I come across sometimes as this, silly and girly and, I've always looked a lot younger than my age. At least I used to. I don't know if I do anymore. I don't know how long I can say that. But I've always looked a lot younger than my age. I think people have really underestimated me. I know people have underestimated me because of that.
Pause for 1 second. We're going to go back to the conference that we met at last year. Tom Ferry comes up to Amber. And he's right. And he was trying to set you up for something, for some sort of answer, because he thought that you were like super young, like early 20s.
Yeah, he thought I was the youngest agent, I think, in the room. Mm-hmm. He did. That threw me off a little bit. That is right. I forgot. Shout out to Tom Ferry if you're listening.
We'll tag him.
Yeah, we'll tag you, Tom Ferry. That's right. He did. So that does happen. Yes. Yeah. Maybe it's the way I dress too. Like I dress like I'm a middle schooler. But I don't know. Yeah, he did think I was young, and so I ruined his example because he was looking for a 20-year-old.
He underestimated you.
He did. That was really funny. I guess he did say to thank my parents for the genetics, I guess, on that one. So, looking younger can be a good thing, kind of, societally, because I feel like we're always looking for the fountain of youth. But in the business world, what might surprise people is that as somebody who does often get confused with somebody younger, like it can people can form opinions about your knowledge and your capabilities based on what they think your age is.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely.
When I was younger, I definitely got very frustrated by this. Like, I would meet with clients, and I also looked younger than I was. I mean, I was also like, I was in my late 20s, but I looked like I was probably my early 20s. And it was so frustrating with some of my clients. And I remember this one lady in particular, and I was sitting down with her to do a buyer consultation, and I could tell she is like not paying attention. She's just looking at me. And she's like, she interrupts me as I'm talking, and she just says, "How old are you?" And she's this older, grandma lady. And I'm like, I'm whatever my age is. I don't know that I even told her what my age is. And I was like, oh, I know I look young, but like, don't worry. Like, I know the business. I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm old enough to help you with this. I've done this before. And she's like, I'm just like, oh, I can't overcome somebody having an age bias against you. But
Yeah,
it was frustrating.
It is frustrating for sure. Age and gender biases for sure affect probably both of us and a lot of women. And I think probably the age thing can go both ways. I think maybe people who are older or look a lot older can be underestimated for certain things as well too.
Absolutely. You have people, it seems to be like when you're at opposite ends of the age spectrum at times, where I think maybe because there's this big generational divide, you forget that the other person is a human being and an adult as well. And so the younger generation will look at these older folks and be like, oh, they're just so out of touch. They don't know what's going on. They're not with it. Like, they're basically 1 foot in the grave, which is definitely the wrong approach to have. And I think you're severely underestimating the elders that we have in our society when you relegate them to just being, in a nursing home. And then sometimes with the older generation too, they're like, these young kids, they're idiots. They don't know anything about this. But, you have a lot of really smart people, even if they're super young.
Yeah. I mean, in the real estate business, I tell people a lot of times, I think it used to be such a thing. A lot of the agents who are very, very experienced and have been real estate agents for decades, they love to tell you that. Like, I have 35 years experience. But I think sometimes, not all the time, depending on the agent, that can actually work to the detriment of a client, because a lot of those people who have been in the industry for decades are still doing things the way they did it decades ago. And they aren't the people always who have evolved. And so sometimes a newer, younger agent, or even just younger in the industry, not necessarily younger in age, agent, they have evolved into like the new way of doing real estate, which has drastically changed over the last 20 years, even over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Since, think of pre-pandemic to post-pandemic real estate. It's night and day.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people will underestimate someone based on their age, but the best realtor for you might be a realtor who is younger in age and newer to the industry. They might have more time and more skills that are helpful to you.
Yes. So have you ever been in a situation with another agent? Because obviously this is a relationship business, but it's also, we've got to negotiate against people. So have you ever had an agent underestimate you in a negotiation process?
Oh yeah. I definitely have had that happen. I have found, I live in a very small place in a small market. So it's kind of one of those places where you really did kind of know everybody, at least on my side of the island. I live on the big island of Hawaii, by the way. So it's a big island, but it's also very small. Trust me.
It's an island.
Yeah. So there are most agents that do one side of the island or the other. So I will say, when I work on the side of the island that I live, people kind of know me by now. So I don't really run like too much into like expectations. But I was, on a broker caravan, on a different part of the island than I usually work. So I wasn't part of that, association. I was a guest. I was visiting, and I did notice because a lot of the agents in that market are, have been in the, industry 20 plus years. They really, I felt like I was being treated. I was there with my camera and my gimbal and trying to like film content and all these things. Some of them, they shut me down. They don't want you to do anything on social media. They really thought I looked like I was day out of like real estate school, 21-year-old moron. That is the way that I was treated.
So these agents didn't want you to do free marketing for their property.
Yeah, and they really, they didn't know me. A lot of them, hadn't heard of, my brokerage because it's not big in the area. I probably looked younger. I, was trying to do stuff for social media that they just aren't even on, So they really underestimated me and like did not, want me to really do anything with their listings. So I have felt that. I've also gone to like trade shows and different things with colleagues who were older than me. Particularly, there's like one male colleague that I've gone to some different things with, and there have been multiple times where we've been in the same room and somebody looked at him and they were only talking to him the whole time and not to me. And then they kind of glance at me and they're like, "Oh, did you bring your is your daughter here on spring break? You today visiting?" And it's kind of like for a moment we're both like mortified and embarrassed, me and my colleague. And then he explains, "Oh no, this is my colleague Amber. Like she's a real estate agent here doing the same thing that we're doing." And it's happened multiple times. They thought, I walk into a room and they think I'm the daughter or the girlfriend or the assistant to my male colleague that I work with.
Always the assistant, always
Mhm.
the one behind the scenes doing all the work.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh yeah. And again, I used to get really frustrated by it. I think it still like irks me a little bit, but then I like redirect that energy over to their downfall. No. So there was one time, this was in a negotiation. So I was showing this house to one of my clients, first time home buyers, and they needed to get like closing costs. They needed to get all these different things. And I saw that the listing agent was someone that my family had used to know. And so I was like, oh, I'm totally going to play up that old childhood relationship because my brother and his son used to be really good friends. We lived in the same neighborhood. And so I call him up because I always call the agents before I make my offers. And I was like, hey, just saw your property today. It's Rebekah, Dan Daniel's daughter. And he's like, oh, hey, instantly puts me into the little girl category because that's how he remembers me. And so I was able to get everything that I needed for this client. Get all the closing costs, get all the, get inspections.
He thought he was helping you.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, we just really need to find a really great house. And I went like super soft, super girly with him. And I just played into this perception that he had of me. So then he thought I was going to be super easy pushover because that's how I was playing it the whole time. Then we get through the inspection and we needed to have some different things done. Now, here's something that I knew about this man. He's a liar, and I knew that he was kind of shady, and he didn't know that I knew this. So as we're going through the repair situation, he comes back to me and he's like, oh yeah, so they weren't able to do all the repairs, but it should be fine. We can still go on to closing, no big deal. And I was like, oh, actually, no, that's not going to work. And the whole tone changed because I went back to, per the contract, there's no more little girl voice at this point. Per the contract, this is what we're going to do. This is what your seller committed to, which I knew was like a really big ask. I was honestly amazed that he agreed to all the inspection requests that we made. But he had to go back and they had to redo all of the repairs because that's what he agreed to in the contract because he underestimated.
Yeah,
me.
he thought he could pull one over on you.
Yeah. And here's the thing is if you want to set the terms for that contract and for those repairs and those negotiations, you should be the one that's writing the form. Don't put it on me to write the form because I'm going to put it in a way that fits exactly what my client wants and needs. And it's probably not going to be as favorable for your client.
Yeah.
So there was no more pushover for the rest of that contract, but it was really fun.
Oh, I love that you kind of embraced it and like had fun with it. I think it's it's also just not expected, I think, of like women in general. Put aside the fact that he kind of saw you as still like this little girl in his mind probably. But there's kind of like a double standard when it comes to women being like really aggressive negotiators, Like it's just not expected from us. It's also not really encouraged from us. It kind of seems like.
No. Oh no. You can't be aggressive. And I think there's different ways that you can go about it. I definitely think you attract more flies with honey. And so I always try to be very sweet when I'm doing the negotiations and I'm hard when I have to be hard. But I still fight for good terms for my clients. And again, I play into that super nice, super easy to get on with. And I am super easy to get on with.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove, I am going to put my client's needs above your client's needs. I'm so sorry, but also not sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you are kicking some ass for
I
your
love
clients.
negotiations.
Yeah.
It's
That's
so much fun.
That's awesome. I hope everyone listens to this and realizes that they should hire a Becca or an Amber because we will go to bat for you. Can I tell you one of the most blatant underestimations
Yes.
that I've ever experienced in the real estate world was I had this guy who I forget how he got in touch with me. Maybe he was a referral or something, and he would call me on the phone and ask me a lot of questions. A lot of my buyer consultations are with people who don't live on my island yet. So I do a lot of Zooms and a lot of phone calls, right? So he would call and ask me these questions, and I would advise him, and then he would call again, and then he admitted to me, actually, I do have another real estate agent, and I just feel like, you seem very young, and it just makes the most sense to go with like the man who has the most experience. He actually said that to me, which at least he admitted it, but he was looking for a man who had more experience because he thought that I looked very young. But he kept calling me for questions, and then finally I just had to, ask him. I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought you were working with another agent. Like, I can't, you should go to them, and they should be advising you on real estate. And he was like, I don't want to waste their time. That's literally what he said. So
But he wants to waste your time?
He was willing to waste my time because I had the answers and the knowledge and the skill, but like he didn't want to use me as an agent. So I did have one guy straight up tell me. I have noticed when I have gotten on Zooms before, and it happens less and less, probably because I am aging, but also probably because more and more of my clients now find me from YouTube videos and different videos where they already see me and are familiar with me and the way I talk and the way I look and my knowledge. But I have been on Zooms with new clients doing new consultations where I can see when they look at me at first, I can just see it wash over their face. They're like, this chick, just like, this is her first day. And then I start talking, and they hear how knowledgeable I am, particularly about real estate in my very, very nuanced market. I mean, I work in a market with active volcanic lava zones and flood zones and tons of weird things that you wouldn't even believe in our real estate market on the big island of Hawaii. And they hear me, how well versed I am. And I just love seeing the change in their face from being like, who is this like high school girl that they said to like, oh, we got the best agent here. Like it is, I do see how you get joy out of it. It does bring me joy too. Yeah.
Well, and I think that goes into the power of your consultation. And so you can't just assume that people are going to want to work with you or are going to assume the right things about you, because everybody has a perception when they see us, when they come across our stuff, whatever, and they will either overestimate you or underestimate you. Very rarely will they get it just right. So if somebody's coming in, from the public, their potential client or referral, and they're underestimating you based off of just your appearance, which it happens, but then you're able to show them the proof of your knowledge and your skill. That's amazing. That is such a great convert there into a true client.
Yeah, it is good. And it's good fuel to, instead of I feel like I've been in so many situations in life where I could really let it like bog me down or move forward through life with a chip on my shoulder and be angry about things, but letting it kind of just fuel you to be better is good. And then also just normalizing what, a real estate agent can be all kinds of different people. It can be 30-something female like Rebekah and Amber, and who makes silly, marketing videos. Or it can be somebody who looks and sounds completely different. So I think just putting that out in the universe that, like we need to break some of these stereotypes. Stop underestimating people and just go off of the value they're actually showing you.
Absolutely. And again, this goes back to some of the stuff that we were talking about in the last episode about it's easy to say words, but you need to have actions that go along with it. And so, I think it's easy to overestimate what somebody can do for you because they're really good at talking and they can like kind of hype up themselves, or they like put out this persona online. But then when it comes right down to it, are they actually able to get the job done? And there's a lot of people that they're all talk and they can't actually negotiate. They can't actually write a contract. They don't actually know what they're talking about. They're just charismatic.
Yeah.
They maybe are taller, because apparently this goes back to, again, 6-foot men, where taller men are considered, like, people do tend to evaluate them higher. They
Oh, yeah.
expect that they're going to be able to do more things. They just have this higher perception of taller men for whatever reason.
Stereotype.
It's a stereotype. It's like psychological fact. Doesn't mean that that man's actually capable of doing something just
Right.
because they're tall.
And this is really important, I think, for women to hear and for everybody to hear who's ever had imposter syndrome or just felt like, oh, like I see them, this person out there doing it, and like, why can't I do it? You have to remember that there are people everywhere who are way, way, way less qualified than you are. Maybe just because they're 6'3" and a white straight man in America. Nothing against those men, but you know what I mean? Like,
It's my favorite man.
we love those guys. But you know what? Like, don't underestimate yourself. Like, there are people who are less qualified and less equipped and less good at doing the thing that you want to be successful at just because they're out there doing it, or because society has just told them their whole life that they are the one who's going to succeed and be capable. So may we all go through life with the audacity of a 6'3" white dude in America. Think of all the things we could accomplish.
If we had the confidence. So I love that you talked about imposter syndrome, because I think that is the constant struggle. I know I struggle with it. Other people struggle with it. And we're thinking about what somebody else's perception of us is. And so just because somebody else is underestimating you or they see you in a certain way doesn't mean that that's the reality.
Yeah.
You know who you are. Have confidence in that. Have confidence in what you know.
Yeah.
Don't
your
let
value.
somebody else's opinion define what you think about yourself. You know the truth. You know you better than anybody else.
It's really dangerous when we get our validation and our self-worth from external factors or external people. So we do have to be careful of that. So it obviously affects us all in business. Does it affect you in your personal life at all? Do you feel underestimated?
In my personal life,
I definitely have felt underestimated a lot in business, but I've also felt underestimated in my personal life. So whether that's like in a dating situation or a social group of people, we all have these like biases that we're not even aware of just because of the way our worldview has been shaped since we were kids, of what we expect from different people. And we put them on other people and other people put them on us. And I definitely know that there have been times where people have met me and expected one thing just based off of what they saw, or like the little smidgen of me that they know from somewhere. And then they realize, oh, I'm a whole lot more, or that maybe I'm completely different than what they thought.
Yeah, I think I see it sometimes in, I don't know if I've always categorized it as underestimating me, but I think people have a lot of misconceptions about me. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Like, and maybe it is that they're underestimating my intelligence. Actually, I have a story about this guy I dated.
Ooh,
this
do
is
tell.
back in Florida, and oh man, this guy was a trip. But one part, and I'll just share this one segment. This man has 2 master's degrees, one from Yale, one from Harvard. Like, he's very intelligent. And he was used to being, I guess, the smarter one in the relationships. Not saying that I'm smarter than him, but he definitely didn't realize how smart I was, because as we're talking about all of these different things and we're talking about these like big topics and like these kind of like, very lofty, and I don't sound very intelligent as I'm trying to describe the things that we're talking about, but they were intelligent conversations.
Yes, very smart words coming out. Yes.
So many smart words. What I lack in vocabulary in this moment, I make up for another thing.
You should have heard this conversation. It was so intellectual.
It was the smartest thing ever. I'm a genius. No, but as we're having the conversation, he just looks at me and he's like, you're really smart. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like, you're really smart. And I'm like, I'm aware of this.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're saying it to me like you're surprised that I'm smart. And it was such a bizarre interaction. And he said a lot of things that he was one of those people where he took all of my strengths and he would be like, "Oh, you're really strong. You're really this, you're really that." I'm just like, "Man, thank you." Like I'm eating it up because I'm like he's affirming me and I'm loving it. Because who doesn't want to be affirmed? And I'm like, "Wow, he recognizes these positive qualities about me." And then he's like, "I don't know if that's for me. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I like that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Very
Wow.
interesting." It's like you probably could have kept that verbal processing to yourself.
Yeah, he could have, but I guess better to find this out now.
Yeah, better to find this out now that
Wow.
you are deeply insecure.
When you said that, a guy said to you, "Wow, I didn't realize you were smart." That was just like, oh my God, I feel like I've gotten that. Because I don't think that, I mean, sure, a lot of guys are looking for a smart girl, but I don't think it's necessarily the very first thing a lot of guys that maybe you'd find on like a dating app are like looking for. I also think that, you know, because there's so many like gender stereotypes we're still trying to break, I feel like I've had a lot of guys kind of like check me out first for like, oh, okay, what does she look like? Okay, would she make like a good mom? Like, oh, like all of these things, like a good person to like stay at home and like cook my meals, which by the way, I cannot cook. So I always fail that one. But I feel like guys, particularly in like dating situations, try like get to know everything else about me. And then like all of a sudden it's like however long later. And they're like, wait, you're kind of funny. Or like, wait, you're kind of smart. You know, I'll be like, oh, did you know, like I used to do, you know, I have all these like random weird things about me that I've done that I think are really unexpected. And I think they are always surprised. Like I've definitely heard that exact thing, like, oh, you're kind of smart.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like they always like it.
I mean, I feel like if they're saying it like that, no.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm smarter than you. And now you know it too. And now this is never going to work.
Do you feel like you have like had to dumb yourself down sometimes?
Yes, of course.
Just
That's
so
what
that
I was trained to do.
Threatened.
That's as a girl, that's what I was trained to do. We act dumb. We want, you know, we explain things to me because I'm a girl.
Tell me about The Godfather.
How does I don't understand. How does the stock market work? You know, like
I'm just a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. And it's like a habit I have to actively break. And it can be really off-putting, I think, to certain like men who aren't comfortable with a strong woman. I think one of the biggest takeaways like for us women with being underestimated, you know, you can spin it into a positive. You can use it to power yourself. And also remember that as you are elevated, to bring other people up with you, because we want to make, you know, leave the world and in the real estate industry, you know, in a better place than where we found it. We want to always have progress, you know, and include different types of people and not underestimate people ourselves. But I think the biggest thing is don't underestimate yourself. When you know, you got to work on your self-confidence if you are going through the world like fearing being underestimated all the time. Like when you go into a networking event, instead of standing around in a circle waiting to be ignored or to be confused with somebody's daughter there on spring break, like you go up and you
their daughter to a real estate networking event.
I don't know. I've brought my mom before. Oh my gosh. But, you know, before you get mistaken or ignored, go up and shake everyone's hand and introduce yourself. Be confident. And it feels a little bit uncomfortable at first. But that's, I think a couple of years ago, I decided that my goal was to start living my life like I think men live theirs in a way. And I know that sounds silly. But truly, I'm like, if I was like this guy, you know, this avatar of this guy I'm thinking of in my head who like society doesn't put all these expectations on him, and he can be unapologetically himself without fearing being judged or criticized or silenced or sexualized or underestimated. How does he go about in the world? That's what I want to be. That's how I try and act. I try and be that and imitate that. So I think if somebody's out there listening is struggling with feeling imposter syndrome or feeling like they are constantly underestimated, you be the change. Work on your self-confidence and just take the lead in those situations instead of just letting things happen to you. And you're not going to change the world overnight. And people are still always going to underestimate certain people because of the way they look or think or act or dress and this or that. But it's all these little things I think we can do to help ourselves and help, progress as a society.
Someone else's perception of you is not reality.
It's not reality. Yeah. And that's also really none of our business. We just got to worry about ourselves.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Twist that underestimation into something to your advantage, especially for your client's advantage. Play whatever angles you can play. And
it can be a superpower.
It is such a superpower.
Yeah. There's nothing better than a woman showing her value and her worth to the world. So don't underestimate us. But if you do, just know it's going to come back and bite you especially if you're in a transaction with me or Becca, apparently.
Well, if you try to pull out something shady, then it's going to come back and bite you. Don't try it. I mean, try it. Go for it. It's not going to end well, but you're welcome to try whatever you want.
Yeah. So if you guys have any stories about how you've been underestimated and how you've overcome, we want to hear them. Send us an email.
Yes.
Or shoot us a DM at number 2. It's the number 2. Girls in the Market on Instagram or 2girlsinthemarket@gmail.com. Shoot us an email, and this has been fun. Till next time. Bye. So one of my favorite things about you is you're kind of savage. I'm realizing, like, the way that you use that in your negotiation when that agent underestimated you, and just like the way
your own holes.
the way that you put, men on blast on social media when they're being inappropriate in your DMs. It's like, it's so unexpected. It's just like out of left field. Becca with the hook punch. Oh my gosh.
You underestimated me. I
did underestimate you. Look at that. I've underestimated. You can underestimate your friends.
How dare you?
I know. How dare I? Lesson learned. Also, I have learned today, never lie to Rebekah Daniels, because she knows. She's going to pretend she don't know, but she knows.
I do. And then I'm just going to never see you the same way.
She'll never see you the same, and she will use it against you if you cross her.
I mean, I'm not saying I won't do that. I'm just saying receipts, screenshots, texts. That's a Real Housewives thing. Not everyone's going to get it.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Roll the tapes. Let's see. I printed out some receipts here to prove. You can't prove anything anymore in this world of AI now. It's all it could all be bogus. Who knows? I don't even know if you're real right now.
I'm not, actually. I had my chat bot come in here.
Yeah. I did underestimate the chat bots. They are really powerful. Anyway.
I feel like guys do underestimate me a lot in these relationships, though.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't understand it. When people lie, I'm like, do you think I'm stupid?
No, I wonder that a lot. I do think that men think that we're stupid sometimes.
Like, they're not even good at it.
No.
And it's the most bizarre thing. And so sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, please continue.
Yeah, I want to see where you're going with this.
Yeah. And it's so revealing about people when they choose what they choose to lie about, how they choose to lie. And then it's just like, very interesting. This has revealed a lot about your character.
Yeah, sometimes like the excuses they come up with for like weird things where it's like, you think I'm buying that? Like, who? What? Like, I wasn't born yesterday.
No, I have ADHD. I have pattern recognition. I am very aware of when there has been the slightest vibe change.
Yeah.
So if you think that you can get anything past me.
Yeah. No, don't underestimate us. Also, the thing that maybe some of these men don't realize is like, women are smart. I mean, there are a lot of women who have built entire empires on looking dumb. Look at Jessica Simpson. What she's built. She's like a billionaire now. Everybody loved her looking. There's no way that woman is dumb. She is so smart. Kim Kardashian. These women are smart. Or Paris Hilton, maybe. She was a good example of somebody who acted really dumb.
Yes.
Like built a brand on her voice and being this and that. But probably very smart businesswomen, I would guess.
Clearly. I mean, she's obviously very intelligent. Like you said, she's built up this business and she built it all off of this ditzy blonde persona that she just leaned into. And we all bought it because
We
we're all
all bought
idiots.
it.
We all underestimated her.
Yes. And there are some like not great things about that. Like I don't want little girls to grow up thinking they need to dumb themselves down because that's
Right.
what society expects of them. But I do think that if men are not paying attention to how smart women really are, like they're really doing them a disservice. Like my female friends are so smart. If you need to find literally any fact up about a guy, like they are the FBI. Like we can dig up stuff. We have these like group chats. You wouldn't believe how intelligent my girlfriends are. The stuff that we do, like the level of just even like overthinking, I feel like we have to do sometimes. It's like we are intelligent beings. We have thought of like every situation, every outcome like a potential date could have, good, bad. We've like probably internet stalked you. We know like where you worked when you were 14 years old. Like we can find information. Like we're really, really smart. And we know when you're lying to us. Like, come on.
I found out a guy that I was dating was still married because I was like, there's something off here. And so I went into the public records and I found his marriage license. And I was like, this is still inactive license, sir. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, it is. There's no divorce record.
Wow.
Show me your divorce record. He's like, oh, come with me to the courthouse. I'm like, I'm not going with you. Just send it to me. You liar.
Liars.
You idiot.
Don't underestimate our intelligence. So that's the advice for the male listeners today. Okay, we're smart. We're smarter than we sound. We're smarter than we look. We're probably older too.
Well, you and I definitely are.
So just stop it.
Just stop. But with the overthinking side of things, because we think about every possible outcome. Do you use that for your clients too? I know I do it for mine. Where I'm like, hey,
we're really good at troubleshooting things.
Yes. So I'm
catching
like, this is the things we can comment to. So again, it's a superpower.
It is a superpower. I think women in particular who are underestimated. We often have really, really strong skills in like foreseeing problems too, and like getting ahead of them. I think that's something that I notice. Like I don't know if there's, I don't want to get into the science of things again, but like something about women that we're just really, really good at that. So
yeah, we have a lot of superpowers. Sometimes people think that they are bad qualities. I don't think they are. I mean, I think anything can be used for good or evil. I choose to use mine for good.
So yeah, interesting. Underestimation. Trying to say that 5 times fast. Underestimation.
Is that even a word?
It is a word. It's not one that I've used before, but it is a word.
Underestimation.
Yes. Lack of representation can lead to underestimation. I don't know.
Are we sure that this is a word?
I don't know. ChatGPT uses it. So.
Well,
could be. ChatGPT
the robots
also
are using it.
The robots also do underestimate women, by the way, not to get into robots. That's a podcast for another day. But there is a lot of gender bias in AI because it's built off of the world and what we already know. And there's gender bias in the world. So even AI might underestimate you, but underestimation is a word, according to the robots. So we'll see.
Let us know in the comments. Do you think that this is a real word? We don't know.
We don't know. Who cares? It's a word now.
All right, so to segue, I don't know where I'm going to put this little clip, but I'm going to put it somewhere in the episode.
Okay. Should I stop recording?
I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about underestimation?
No.
Okay.
All things that can be said have been said.
Cool beans.